science fiction. We make no guarantees, however, how long it will remain fiction. Fiction. Fiction.
Sing-song salutations, all you cognonauts out there, and welcome to Exofathom, the show that dares to explore the outside reaches of understanding. I am Nick, and I am joined, as always, by Ayla. How you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Happy to be alive on this wonderful Friday. How about you?
Oh, that's wonderful news. Yes, we're happy to have you alive in this Friday. Very good.
Thank you.
We got Mike here. How you doing, man?
Sing-song salutations.
Yeah.
Sing song.
That's pretty cool.
My salutations are just going to get more and more absurd as we go on.
No, I'm cool with that. I'm hanging in there. How's it going on? How's it going on your end?
Not too bad. Can't complain. It's Friday. Hope everybody out there is having a wonderful day, no matter what day that may be you're listening. We very much appreciate you. For this exobit, I just wanted to have a brief discussion around something I came across. I bought this book, and it's a compilation of not all of, but a large amount of creation myths from around the world. And so I was thumbing through it and kind of, trying to see if anything perked my fancy. And I came across this little song of creation, as it were, by the Hopi Native Americans. And I thought I'd share it with you guys today. And I'll read it off, and then we can go and kind of pick it apart and see if there's any sort of similarities or metaphor that is significant. But I just thought it was a really kind of beautiful piece and something that I don't know, gave me the warm and fuzzies when I read it. So I'm hoping that everybody likes it out there.
Sweet.
Yeah. And I don't have an introductory question for you guys because I'm trying to streamline this so that we can get straight to the conversation. So I'm just going to jump into a little bit of the context about this song of creation, and then we'll dive right into it, and then we can open it for discussion. Sound good?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Wonderful. So a little bit of context about this is that this creation song or song of creation is only a small part of the larger creation myth from the Hopi Native Americans. That would be a much longer discussion, which I would love to have in the future because it's a very interesting, a creation myth in of itself. But this particular bit of it is the song that the Spider Woman sings when she is commanded by God to create humankind. And so when the Spider Woman was tasked by Teowa, which is the god, to create man after the stage was set for them, the Spider Woman gathered earth of 4 colors: yellow, red, white, and black. And she mixed it with the earth with Chichvala, which is liquid from her mouth, and then molded the earth and covered it in a white cape of creative wisdom. And then after she had covered these molded earth people, she was instructed to sing the song of creation. And it goes as follows. The dark purple light rises in the north. A yellow light rises in the east. Then we of the flowers of the earth come forth to receive a life of joy. We call ourselves the butterfly maidens. Both male and female make their prayers to the east, make the respectful sign to the sun, our creator. The sounds of bells ring through the air, making a joyful sound throughout the land, their joyful echo resounding everywhere. I humbly ask my Father, the perfect one, Taiawa, our Father, the perfect one creating the beautiful life, shown to us by the yellow light, to give us perfect light at the time of the red light. The perfect one laid out the perfect plan and gave us a long lifespan, creating song to implant joy in life. On this path of happiness, we, the butterfly maidens, carry out his wishes by greeting our Father Sun. The sound resounds back from our Creator with joy, and we of the earth repeat it to our Creator. And then appearing the yellow light repeats and repeats again the joyful echo, sounds and resounds for times to come. And that was the incantation, or I guess song, that Spider Woman was instructed to sing over these earthen men in order to bring them to life. And so yeah, that's the song, or the verses. And so why don't I just kick it off to you guys? Do you guys have any initial thoughts?
Well, I have always loved the Spider Woman tales, and it's funny because the Hopi, the Navajo, the Zuni, the Pueblo. I think maybe there might be a couple other tribes I'm missing, but the southwestern tribes, there's a lot of they're very unique tribes, but some of the mythologies overlap a little bit. And so like we have a Spider Woman that kind of like goes into the direction of the weaver and rugs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But to hear the Hopi story, the song of Spider Woman being the one that made us, it's beautiful. I particularly love what is it, that she mixed the liquid of her mouth,
Mm-hmm.
whenever I think about sewing, it's like you lick the thread and then you
Yep.
get to it. And it made me think of like, I learned that from, like the older ladies that I grew up with. And the old ladies have like a very specific way of doing it, right? Because their eyes aren't great. So they have their glasses just a little low, and they look at it and they're very methodical and slow and deliberate about it. And so it did give me a little bit of the warm and fuzzies as well, I think.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, there's definitely a sort of metaphor about the weaving of reality, and the spider being very significant in that, and basket weaving in those cultures as well being a representation of that act. So yeah, it's all very pretty. Micah, any initial thoughts?
I'm just hung up on this whole butterfly maiden thing.
I know, isn't that cool?
That is cool, but at the same time, I'm a little not lost, or I'm just trying to imagine it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is very like warm and uplifting. Like they're responsible for making the sunrise and the butterflies come out.
Yeah, or maybe the butterfly is like the transformation, or the metamorphosis, or just a symbol of beauty. The butterfly maidens were just these dancing beings and in the light of the sun creator. I guess it could go a lot of ways.
This sounds a little bit too optimistic for my taste.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, I totally understand. It is a little bit airy, but I do like the line, then we of the flowers of the earth come forth. I thought that was really interesting, sort of likening humankind to the flowers of the earth, born from it and then returning to it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then just how, I don't know about you guys, that I tend to like feel with the seasons, or I definitely get like deep, like springtime, right? When flowers kind of bloom, you kind of get more energy in you versus like the dead of winter.
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely how tied we are to the environment and the seasons and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think it's kind of just a pretty, what struck me the most is that in a lot of creation myth, at least the ones that I've read, there didn't seem to be as much joyousness as what I've read in these lines here. A lot of creation myth tends to be quite dour, serious work. But this kind of just makes me feel like, a little bit more light. I really like this concept of to receive a life of joy, that, we're put here on this earth to live a joyous life and to become the butterfly mavens that sort of flit about and maybe perhaps don't get tied down by too much.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too because in a lot of the ceremonies there's so many different like dances.
Mhm.
Um but one of the things I know about like there's a Hopi butterfly dance, and it's really similar to this Navajo flag dance where you gosh, it's kind of just like this jumping motion. You have like a group of people and they're in regalia and they're really close together and they're like I don't know how to describe it. Like think of it like not marching, but it's like a little hop step. So they're like doing this hop jump thing.
Mm.
And it's the same rhythm, and then all in unison for one step they'll go really slow and then they do it again, and there's something about it that just makes me think of like butterfly movements. When you
Mhm.
see it, it's really jittery and then it will like soar for a minute, and then it's jittery and then it soars for a minute. And I think, yeah, a lot of creation myths can have this doomy sense to them, but I feel like a lot of the folks that are of the earth, more connected, it tends to be a little bit more I don't know, like celebratory. It's like
Mhm.
you're observing the beauty around you and that comes out in the lore and stuff.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it almost sounds like a happy mosh pit or something.
Right. Yeah,
A
exactly.
little bit, a little bit.
But like the greeting of our father sun, this kind of like feeling that you're helping the sun rise, and you're helping
Mm.
the like overall this joyous feeling, I guess, rise in the people around you.
Mhm.
With
Yeah, I really like that. I think that that's really beautiful. I also like this sort of like this metaphor about sound, and the sound of the bells ring through the air, making a joyous sound throughout the land. Their joyful echoes resound everywhere. And then it kind of skips a little bit, but that the last line is like the song resounds back from our creator with joy. And then we of the earth repeat it to our creator. So it's like this sort
Mm.
of like resonant feedback loop that they're talking about, where it's like the creator is giving us the energy to exist, and through our existence, we feed the creator as well. And so there's something really kind of beautiful about that sort of symbiosis.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, even yeah, it's like you're given this energy of life, and you kind of have to send that energy back to your creator, whatever creator you have, right? And
Mm.
you and as long as you keep feeding that loop, you will keep getting energy, or
Yeah.
something like that, like that echo, right? The joyful echo sounds and resounds for times to come.
Yeah, throughout eternity. It's and I definitely think that there's something significant about the concept of sound because so many um, creation myths have to deal with that. But Ayla, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just thinking about the bells.
Mm.
So a lot of the regalia will have little bells on it. So when you're doing that
Ah.
step, it's gonna have this like whoosh, 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 whoosh. And I know, yeah, I mean, like a lot of the songs too, they're sung in a way that evoke kind of like this feeling in your body. Like if you hear the like drumming, for example, it like resonates in your chest and you can feel it in your heart.
Mm.
And yeah, so I think it's kind of cool to think about like, well, I know the bells from that, and I'm just curious what was the creator's bell. Like I wonder what
Mm.
that first bell sounded like to kick off this imagery.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then this sort of yeah, I do really like this use of sound because I think we've talked about it before, but we've talked about certain creation myths and using the word. God speaks, and then creation. So there's something kind of intrinsic about the quality of sound and vibration that even ancient people kind of understood was within the fabric of reality, which is pretty astounding to me. I mean, I guess it makes sense on an instinctual level, especially if your culture is surrounded by so much music and song, that you would naturally have a sort of creation myth that is enveloping of that as well. But it is kind of astounding to me how so many cultures in the past knew that reality was just this like vibrating string that is creating something, and that we're all just sound.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like they like string, it's like the OG string theory.
Right. Yeah.
Just waves. I'm curious about this dark purple light.
And I was too, actually, and I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. So the dark purple light rises in the north is an actual thing I did not know. In the poles of the Earth, whenever you're in that area, the sun set and rise is purple because you never really get a full day of sun. So most of the time, the atmosphere turns purple, which is another thing that's interesting that a Southwest Native tribe would know about the poles. I don't know how they knew that, but that indeed is something that happens in the north.
Well, and it happens in the Southwest too. Like, you'll get some sunsets that I want to say, because like I'm just trying to, I don't want to mix tribes, but I feel like I'm trying to remember like where the Hopi are, but I think they're on like top of mesas. Like their homes are built up high. And the thing about that is, like in Arizona at least, you when you're up high and the sun's setting, when it goes behind the mountains, then there's a moment where all the land has this like bluish purple tinge to it. So I'm wondering, because again, you usually only see that if you're on a mesa, which I'm usually not, because you don't want to be up there at dark times. But if they're up there, then I could imagine that they would probably be seeing that more often, and it would be more like really resplendent, especially in the mornings too, because as it's rising, you get that really pretty morning light. So it's interesting. I didn't know about the poles, but now I'm gonna have to go back there and get my picky on. And
Yeah, well, it kind of makes me wonder. I mean, it kind of makes me wonder if there was like, because obviously it's feasible that a Southwest Native tribe could have connections to, say, an Arctic tribe. Perhaps there were travelers in between these areas that would tell tales of what it's like to live up in the Arctic Circle, maybe where the Inuit, people are.
Oh, yeah. And I heard something recently about that. They like found a pair of shoes, but something about them like tied them to where like more like the Athabascan tribes would be. So I thought that was kind of interesting, because even like the language, my Alaskan Native friends, when I hear them sound so similar to Navajo, and I'm like, that's just interesting to me, and I don't know what it means, but it could mean that there's this
common ancestry, or at least a linguistic ancestry,
or a trade route or something.
Yeah.
And too, just back then there wasn't that much light pollution, right? So maybe the light actually traveled further, so they may have been able to see it.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, there wasn't all this crazy city lights that obscured you from God. That's for sure.
The whole myth too or the whole song centers around sunrise, which is interesting. Like, there's no talk of the sun setting in the west or anything like that. It's all focused on the east and the north.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a reason to that, because I believe, at least what I got from the song is like the attachment of humanity to the rising yellow light. And I should give a little bit of context, and I would love to get into this actually fully in another episode. Maybe I can go over the whole myth, but the Hopi believe that there are 4 ages. And one of the ages was the purple light. And then the other age, when man was created, was the yellow light age. And then humans were supposed to be created in the yellow light age and then brought into the red light age. And then there's a 4th age that we're currently going into right now, or have just recently gone into. And there's a lot of very strange sort of prophecies that surround the predicting of the age, because the gods told Spider Woman and the early humans what these ages were going to be like. And there's a lot of very interesting congruities to what their god said the ages were going to be like, and what they actually turned out to be. So I think that'll be an interesting topic for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because like for my hippie adventures, I'm just gonna call them that, people who would talk about like native mythology or whatever, they would always talk about like Hopi proverbs. And I would always
Mm.
be like, well, what about the other 499 tribes?
Oh yeah, I have the
I
book
was a
here.
little bitter, like, damn, fine. Like, but I mean, it is a beautiful religion. And like,
Well, actually, to be fair, too, I was looking for Navajo creation myths in this book, and there weren't any, so I had to get to the
really?
yeah. I may just have an incomplete book, and I might have to just buy a separate book of Navajo myth, which I probably will. But
Oh, yeah. I have one. My mom stole it from me, but it was beautiful. It had these like gorgeous illustrations. And
I know I remember that was a good one.
but it's funny because like they have the idea of the four worlds as well.
Mhm.
And a lot of tribes have this sort of like the image that you pulled reminds me of the medicine wheel. So you'll see a lot of
Yes.
a lot of tribes, they have the circle and the division of four, and it means different things. But it keeps coming back to that idea.
And
Which I
it's all the
really
same colors too, which I think is fascinating. So the medicine
like.
wheel is,
Yeah.
yeah, yellow, red, black, white.
Mhm.
And that's within the Hopi tradition too. When Spider Woman takes the earth, she's taking red, yellow, black, and white earth.
Mhm.
And I think that's really cool. It makes me wonder, what do you think the significance of those colors are?
Oh, I know. So some of it has to do with textiles, right? Like when
Mm,
you think about the plants that grow out there and
dyes.
the types of dyes, there's
Mm,
only so many dyes you can have. But then I think it also ties into the spiritual practices. So like for the Navajo, and again, I don't mean to keep bringing up the Navajo, it's just this is what I
no,
know.
no, please do. Yeah.
But each we have four sacred mountains that border our native homelands, and each mountain has its own stone that's associated with it. So there could be red coral in one mountain, which is weird because you don't think coral in the Southwest, but we actually find these like orange shells that might find like in those areas. So there's
Mm-hmm.
that, and then
It
you
was
have
all underwater
turquoise.
before.
Yeah, exactly. Like at my grandma's, you'll find these little seashells, like these fossilized seashells, which is pretty cool. But yeah, and then you have black onyx at another point. And
Mm.
so, it's just so much of like, yeah, like when you think about the colors, it's going to tie into the animals, the vegetation, and sometimes too, you'll see some of the gods that are tethered by a rainbow because you get these beautiful rainbows out there.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
So yeah, lots of like just really cool. Uh, mm, I don't know, things that get integrated into your worldview, which
Oh,
is
I think
beautiful.
I think it's really fascinating the way cultures create value, and sort of decide what to value. I think that's really a fascinating process, and that's why I love creation myth so much, because a lot of the times creation myth can explain what a culture values the most,
Mm,
and I think that's kind of something kind of cool. It's almost like you get a little peek, just a little peek into what it was like to live that type of life. And I think
yeah.
it's pretty beautiful.
Well, and the hairstyles of the Hopi, beautiful as well. Or just a lot of their out, the different things that they wear. When you
Mm.
especially like their blankets, like they had a very specific style to everything. And another tribe not too far away, like if you look at the Zuni, for example, their you know crafts and things like that, they're totally different, same, very similar, like the color schemes are similar, but the presentation of people and gods completely different. More of a rounded look as opposed to the rectangular eyes that you'll see in the Hopi and Navajo and stuff. So
Which is pretty interesting if you think about, because you guys were technically neighboring tribes, and I don't know how much your dividing line was separated by, but it couldn't be all that much. So it's interesting to see how easily cultures can shift and change with just a small amount of geographical distance.
Yeah, like I wish I could zoom way back and just see everybody in their heyday, and how, and then the origins from there, which would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Even like tribal relations too, and how that plays into how those cultures would intermingle.
Oh yeah.
Because isn't there one tribe down there that is like real bad? The Apache?
Oh, the Apache. Well,
According to my grandfather, who is passed, God rest his soul, yes, the Apache, he threatened Ayla to call the Apaches and wage war against the Navajo.
rest his soul.
Yeah, it was totally inappropriate, and Ayla was a total champ for taking that in stride. But
here's the thing: he only semi-insulted you if he really liked you.
That's
right. And go ahead.
No, just like how the Hopi and the Navajo may have traded more culturally versus than say the Apache and the Navajo, or the Apache and the Hopi, depending on how warlike they were. Because you see this with like Aztecs, right? They're much more authoritarian, totalitarian. They're just warlike and just wouldn't even trade cultures. You either become my culture or that's it, that sort of thing. So it's just curious how this plays out into myth and culture bleeding over.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Because like the Apache tribe, I think part of the vibe that they're given comes from, their leaders like Geronimo and those that really stood up to protect their people and did it in a way that maybe gave them that more like violent bent to them. Like the people be like, oh, the Apaches, they fight back. Be careful. Fierce. There it is. Yes. But like I think prior to having, this outside source of terror, I think there was a lot of trade and a lot of like, respect and community and things like that. Not to say that there wasn't conflict, because I know there was as well. But I think, I don't know. I wouldn't say there's one tribe that's like, the shady tribe, but
and I watch out for those guys.
I know.
I come from a partying tribe. I never learned our tribe's name, and it's something that died with my great grandmother.
Oh no.
Yeah, apparently we're just some crazy partiers, and it's like we can't have that going further down the line.
Oh no. No, I guess I'm just like a little hesitant because when I was growing up, there was this sense, and I don't know where it came from. It would be talked about at like powwows where, my mom is together with her friends and they're Navajo and they're Zuni and Apache and some of the Plains Indian tribes would be there. And I just remember growing up and having this feeling like the Hopi and the Navajo don't like each other. And I think that's because of like the reservation lines, because like the Hopi tribe has a smaller parcel of land compared to the Navajo, which has one of the largest. But our reservation actually borders theirs. So there's like the Navajo lands, and then like in the middle of it, there's like a small little Hopi area. And so I remember somebody having like a really interesting discussion about how like, well, it's not really us. It doesn't come from us. This is a manufactured like us versus them story. And so I don't know. I guess I just remember that and think I'm like, I just have to read more about all this stuff. Cause yeah, it's fascinating. And I would love to study some of the, I don't know, some more of the history about it for sure.
Yeah, well, we definitely have to do a creation myth series, I think, and I would love to get my hands on that book that you had, Ayla, about the Navajo creation myth. That would be a fun episode to do for sure.
The illustrations on that were amazing.
Yeah, very cool stuff. But yeah, that's all I got. I just wanted to share that. I thought, I was flicking through this book looking for inspiration, and that's kind of what caught my eye. And yeah, I think it was just, it's a nice little song. And yeah, so thanks. I think that's it. Unless you guys have something else to say,
Yeah.
go
I
for
got
it.
one more thing.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
please.
Mike.
Kind of. So you have this whole perfect one, this monotheistic religion, I'm guessing, right? Or was there? So you
It's interesting because so Tiowa is like the utmost god, but then he created a lesser god to do his bidding, and that god created Spider Woman. So like there is kind of like a tier to these gods, but yes, Tiowa would be the penultimate.
Yeah. So I was gonna say you do kind of see that hierarchy where it's like this was handed to Spider Woman. Spider Woman then sings it and then hands it off to the people to echo to sing over and over and over. So
Yeah,
I was
like
just,
yeah.
I was just curious about like because that does come out, that hierarchy does show itself even in this song, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like a Russian nesting doll. It just keeps, layers upon layers. And yeah, that was one of the things that I was reading a little bit too. It's just about the layers of metaphor that are important in creation myths, so that they can be sort of metaphorically true on many levels in the psychological scape, I guess.
Yeah, and it parallels some other like close to Christianity, I would suppose. Like you have this perfect father, then you have this person embodying it, and then you have everybody that tries to parallel or echo the person that embodied the God.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much like Jesus and many other religions that have come and gone in our history, which is to me is the most fascinating aspect about religion, is how similar it all is.
Oh yeah,
And just different voices and iterations, and everybody puts their own flavor on it.
Flavor.
Those ages too. You get. I think if you just had people studying the skies, they end up coming close to some semblance of those ages. So they do like their math correctly, then they all come close to the same, the same ages, but just having different meanings to it. Even though those meanings all seem to tie in, like they all seem
Right.
to be very similar as you look around different parts of the ancient world, which is weird to think about too.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And like for as much as I understand how ancient people got so adept at astrology, it still blows my mind because as a modern person, if I was thrust back into ancient world, I mean, like, yes, I could look at the stars and maybe notice patterns, but like these people were navigating oceans by constellations and things like that. It's just like, whoa, I'm totally underdeveloped in my astronomy.
All right, it's like where's Hawaii? That way. Are
Yeah.
you sure? Yeah, this it came to me in a dream.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Here,
okay.
let me hold this crystal up to the sky and see if one of the stars shines brighter through it than not. Like we'll
Pretty
cross
gnarly.
the ocean with it. I mean, that's what the Vikings did. The Vikings, like, they crossed the ocean using those scrying crystals, which like was basically like an opaque crystal that they held up to the sky on a foggy day so that they could find the sun and get their orientation.
Early optics.
Seriously, it's so incredible how people figure this stuff out, man. It's
So
very
true.
incredible.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all I got. So, thank you guys very much. I appreciate
I
it. Yeah.
Oh,
Huh?
can I
Yeah.
add
Oh, yeah.
one thing?
Please. Yes, please. Please.
Well, okay, so I was gonna say one of the other things that I really liked about this was the number of times that the word joy is used. Joyful sound, joyful echo, joy in life.
Ah, my ears.
Well, and it's funny, I share it just because, like, I remember at one point, maybe it was like before college or after, my mom took me home and she's like, we're going to have a little ceremony and we're just going to, get you all set either for preparing college or after. I don't remember exactly when, but I had all this stuff going on, you know. I was like, you know, I'm young, there's college, there's choices, there's, you know, there's a whole lot of stuff. There's a lot of drama. And I remember the medicine man sitting down and, you know, doing his prayer, it's this long prayer. And I remember talking to him after, and I was asking him more about like what it was that he was praying for. And more of it was like leading up to the ask, which at the end is to be happy. It was so simple. I thought it was going to be this really like you ask this whole long thing, or you set this intention, or you have to do this, you have to do that. And ultimately, it came down to just it being about harmony and joy. And so I think that that's something that sticks with me because you know, it's easy for us to complicate life. It's easy for us to complicate our days. And, you know, sometimes just taking a minute and thinking back on some of the more old school wisdom, it's not that complicated. There's a way to, you know, click out of it and find that simplicity and then find that joy. And so just on this Friday, you know, after having a horrific asthma attack earlier and thinking I was going to die, you get a little epiphany. So, you know, seize the day, carpe diem, find your joy, and find a way to let that echo, and to have your life be a, what did they call a joyful echo? It's beautiful.
Yeah, and carpe noctem for all you mics out there.
Right.
Hey, I'm on the pursuit of happiness. All right.
That's right. Absolutely. No judgment here. Well, yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you to Ayla and Mike, who has a fun conversation as always with you guys.
You too.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. Please, if you like what we're doing, consider following us on YouTube. It's youtube.com/exofathom. Consider giving us a subscription. If you feel so inclined. Otherwise, we just very much appreciate you listening. Until next time, you flowers of the earth, go receive that joyous life, and we will catch you on the next Exofathom. Good night.
Peace.
Later.